Okay, there we go. Okay, now we're going again. So the indigenous people wanted an agreement whereby they still had a place to live, and they established portions of land, small portions of land throughout the area, and in agreement for ceding all the rest of the land, they were given certain provisions, medicine, education, financial means, some farming equipment, and so on. And the government of Canada in subsequent years failed in its obligation to serve those needs. And we've been stuck with the problem of dissatisfaction amongst the Indigenous people ever since. So we're working on that gradually and slowly. The reconciliation effort that the government undertook a while back is still in progress. And I don't know how long that'll take, but it's a long-term project. So just want to recognize that we're on Treaty 6 land that's governed by that treaty, Treaty number 6. Okay, I'd like to now turn it over to Netta, who is going to introduce our speaker. Netta.
Hello, and thank you all for coming. And we are a little at odds and ends here. We haven't had a live lunch and learn for 2.5 years, so I forgot to book the forum room because I haven't had to do that, and there's somebody else in there. But welcome everyone. I'm very happy to let Peter introduce himself, but he's been a member of the Interfaith Center for many years. He's a retired psychologist. I've read his first book, which we have in our library. He's taken the words, the universal teachings of an amazing young man, Babaji, and brought them to us, brought them to our attention, amplified them, and done a beautiful job. And I have not yet read his new book, and I look forward to that. And they are available. They're going to be available. They're available online, Peter, right? Yes, they are. And also, in case I forget when we say goodbye, the new calendar is for sale, the 2023 multi-faith calendars. I would be remiss to not remind you of that. Thank you very much.
Peter.
Yeah.
Yes, welcome everyone to this presentation. Let me say a few words about myself. I am of Polish origin. I was born in Poland, and I lived in Poland for the first 36 years of my life. I have, yes, in fact, a psychological education background, and I worked in Alberta for almost 30 years in different, most often in different mental health settings. As far as of my spiritual or religious background is concerned, I was born Catholic and baptized in Catholic Church, but possibly mainly because of Haidakhan Babaji, I cannot really refer to myself as Catholic anymore. I don't believe this describes well how I perceive the world or spiritual matters. What else I could say about myself? I am retired since 2019. And I am married and I have 2 adult sons. No grandchildren yet. Yeah. No, very well. Yeah, I am a bit under the weather. So if you don't mind, I will keep my hat. It seems when I have it on, I am less inclined to respond to currents and stuff like this. Yes, I would like to tell you today about Haidakhan Babaji, because he's a person who is in fact responsible for me being interested in all the interfaith issues for so long. And he's one of the reasons why I'm a member of Edmonton Interfaith Center for so many years. Yeah, so let's go into the presentation. No, I don't see anything yet. Here it is. Okay, yes, so my presentation is called Unity Beyond Division because it's one of the phrases Haidakhan Babaji coined many years ago. And this is, I believe, what is one of the central themes of his teachings. This is what helps me, for instance, to function smoothly in interfaith media and interact with members of different religious backgrounds. Oh, let's go to the next slide, please.
I'm trying.
Mhm.
I'm trying. There we go.
Okay, so perhaps before I talk about Haidakhan Babaji, whom you can see on the left side of this picture, I will say a few words about this gentleman on the right, because this is through him that I got to know about Haidakhan Babaji and about his teachings. So this person is Leonard Orr. He's a founder of Rebirthing Breathwork. So this was a breathing therapeutic technique developed by him in the 70s. He came to train to Poland. I trained with him quite extensively and had a chance to spend a lot of time with him. And he was, whenever he had a chance, he was almost always, he would always talk about Haidakhan Babaji. I could probably say that he was in love with Haidakhan Babaji because he would talk about him all the time. And what I experienced first time in his presence, it was this anticipation that the divine can manifest at any moment. This is how strong Leonard's Orr faith was, and that he would look, for Babaji almost all the time and everywhere. Well, let's go to the next slide. So I will try, to refer to you some basic facts about Haidakhan Babaji. As objectively as I can, more or less narrating it to you as it was narrated to me. So it is believed that Haidakhan Babaji started his public ministry in June 1970, when he was discovered sitting in deep meditation in this cave across Gautama Ganga River. You can see there's a river flowing down there, and across from Haidakhan Ashram, which is also visible in this picture. So this is from this place that Babaji is, having his name Haidakhan Babaji. And as no one knew about his parents, and there was no record of him attending any schools, the locals concluded that he simply manifested himself. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay. No problem. See what I can do here. Not responding.
Can I control it from here, right?
Thanks.
Doesn't seem to be responding to my.
No, it's not. Giving me. Oh, did that do it?
It did, yes. Yes, this is one of the first pictures of Babaji, if not the very first. which was taken in October 1970, Babaji went to a small temple on Mount Kailash. There is another more famous Mount Kailash in Tibet, but this was a local Mount Kailash. And reportedly, he stayed in this place for 45 days. 45 days, most of the time in deep meditation. A phrase that I've heard about this particular experience was that he didn't leave his seat. Yeah? I'm not quite sure if it means that he didn't move for 45 years or whether he didn't leave this little temple. But reportedly, this is what drew attention of the local people, and hundreds eventually joined him in this temple simply to get to know him and to celebrate with him. And this was not an easy thing to do, because it was about like a 3-hour hike from the Haidakhan ashram. I tried to do it myself and I couldn't. It was a cruel hike. So at that time, he established a reputation as a person of great spiritual power and wisdom, and that's why people were, attracted to him. Try it. Let's try another slide. Yes. Yes, and this is another one of the early pictures of Babaji, and as you may, if you look carefully, you will see great intensity and I would say beauty in this picture, and these are the qualities that seem to be attracting people to him from the very beginning. So very quickly he developed reputation as a person being able to read human minds and perform miracles. Most of his followers believe that he is a manifestation of Shiva, which in Hindu tradition would be equivalent to let's say of God the Father. It is the highest God. And with time, he attracted many followers from the West, including reportedly Steve Jobs. I had a little link in this slide to the material on YouTube about this particular issue. This material is no longer available, so there is no point in trying to go there. But if you are interested, you could probably Google and find this material on YouTube or somewhere else. Some other of the well-known people who were his followers were Hindu actor Shamni Kapoor, and from the newer generation, actress or actor Priyanka Chopra, which is quite well known in Hollywood and Bollywood circles. Let's go to the next slide. Babaji didn't have a great following because a couple of reasons. One is that this Haidakhan ashram was about 10 kilometers from the closest road. Yeah? And when I visited this ashram in 1986, I had to cross this river that you can see in the pictures a few times barefoot because there was simply no road. Yeah? So this was one of the reasons why people couldn't really visit this place in great numbers. Another reason why there's not so many of his followers is that his spiritual routine was very hard on people. Like he used to wake up at 3 a.m. and take a bath, most often in this cold Gautama Ganga river. and this was followed by meditation and a fire ceremony. So around 5 o'clock, he would see his devotees for a ceremonial shandan, which is a placing a mark on your forehead, followed by morning arti, which was basically devotional singing for about 1 hour. And then for the most of the day, everybody had to work. Yeah? It was called by Babaji as karma yoga. And, people would be busy all day long, with the exception of this short break at lunchtime when typically the only meal of the day would be served. People would keep working. Now, sometimes he would see the devotees in the afternoon for so-called darshan, like individual audiences. When there was another bath in the evening and another arti in the evening. And after the evening arti, Babaji was giving these short speeches that were recorded in the teachings of Babaji, and this is the source from which I would be quoting him today. So perhaps it will be interesting for you to hear what Babaji was, what was Babaji's self-awareness, what was he saying about himself. So yeah, a few times he referred to himself as a messenger of revolution. He was warning everybody about the upcoming physical destruction, and this would be one form in which this revolution would take place. But he was also talking about the revolution of the heart. Yeah. So this is not exactly quite sure what he meant by revolution. He said, I have to awaken the world from its sleep. This revolution takes place for the sake of world peace. This is my sole aim and my main task. When unrighteousness prevails in the world, this is the only path possible. He also referred to himself as Bole Baba and Mahaprabhuji. So he said, I am Bole Baba, I'm a simple father. I am nobody and nothing. I am only like a mirror in which you can see yourself. I'm like a fire. Don't get too far away, or you will not get any warmth. But don't get too near, or you may burn yourself. Learn the right distance. My name is Mahaprabhuji, which is generally translated as meaning I am the great God. A few times Babaji hinted that he's the same being to whom Paramahansa Yogananda referred as Mahavatar Babaji in Autobiography of a Yogi. I wonder if you had a chance to read this book. If not, I would encourage you to do it, because this is very interesting reading in itself. And in this book, Babaji is presented as a person of enormous spiritual powers, being able to manifest and unmanifest himself at will, be in many places at the same time, being able to fulfill more of the wildest dreams of his followers and stuff like this. So Babaji, Haidakhan Babaji hinted that he is the same person. Let's go to the next. On one occasion, when he was bugged about, by questions about what kind of guru he is, yeah, he eventually, probably slightly annoyed, responded saying, I am no one's guru, but I am the guru of gurus. He also was referring to himself often as a servant of all humanity. This is, among others, what he said. I sell all this in the service of humanity. To work, think good, and dedicate your life to humanity is the best. The only necessity of this yoga is karma yoga through service. Everybody must spread this message. It is my desire that there be harmony in the universe. My plan is one of love. So this is often what he also encouraged his devotees to do, is to consider themselves to be servants of humanity. So what was Babaji busy doing? First of all, he renovated this ashram in Haidakhan, which you can see in this picture, which was believed to belong to one of his previous manifestations. In fact, he was asked to show up in court in India, and was asked questions about, why he is claiming that this belongs to him. And he was able to convince a judge that he is, this is his possession, that he is a rightful owner. He built other ashrams, performed many acts of charity. What I very much admire about him is that his ashrams were open to people of all religious denominations. In fact, Christmas, Jewish New Year, reading from of Sikhs, Guru Granth Sahib, and many other holidays of different religions, these were all celebrated in his ashrams. And he naturally was feeding people every day, which is a custom in India. Another part of his ministry it seems, were these sacred fire ceremonies known as yagnas. So these are believed to be very auspicious ceremonies, in a sense that they create prosperity for the locals or the whole land. And coincidentally, India accomplished food self-sufficiency around that time, and some people were attributing this to this sacred fire ceremonies that Babaji performed. He also traveled to different holy sites in India, always drawing big crowds. Sometimes he traveled on horse, sometimes in a car, but in this way he was spreading his message. In spite of what seemed to be his boundless energy, all of his ministries appeared to be taking toll on him. Though eating very little, he gained weight and appeared to age, and at unusually high rate. Yeah? And though many of his believers, including Leonard, though these people believe that he is immortal, Haidakhan Babaji left his body on 14th February 1984, so it was only after 14 years of his ministry. And if you look at this picture, you will see that he looks much older comparing to his early pictures. In early pictures, he looked like a teenager. Here he looks like a tired 40, 50 years old person. The fact that he left through his heart, it is nice a way to put it. He looked like he had simply a heart attack or heart failure of some sort. And because it happened on Valentine's Day, at least his Western followers seem to interpret this as a sign of his great love for humanity, for whole humankind. And what is interesting that he also foretold his death, and he reportedly even told one person the year when he will leave the body. This is more or less how he referred to it. He said, "My body is meant to dry up one day. This body is nothing. It is here only to serve people. Even my own body has come only to perform a duty, to serve all human beings and all living things." I would like to draw your attention to this last sentence because it seems to illustrate certain, I would say, ecological awareness of Babaji. He was not only interested in the welfare of human beings, but he was concerned about all living beings. So what was Babaji's message? I identified at least 13 themes that were most prominent in his teachings, and I believe they represent, let's say, the core of his doctrine. And I will, try to explain these things one by one. So first, although he was, he manifested in India and was worshipped according to local customs, Haidakhan Babaji explained that he didn't really come to restore Hindu Dharma or Hinduism, but rather Sanatana Dharma. And the Sanatana Dharma can be understood as a primordial religion reflecting natural laws established at the beginning of the creation. So this would include, for instance, the laws of physics or chemistry and stuff like this. He said, "I have come to guide humanity to a higher path. I do not belong to any particular religion, but respect all religions. I seek the elevation of all mankind." And this is how the Sanatana Dharma was explained further, for instance, by one of his followers, a famous scholar in himself, Vishnu Das Shastriji, who explained, "You may try to understand this spontaneous religion this way. The Dharma, law or nature of fire is to burn. The Dharma of water is to be wet. The air has to blow. Can one tell on what day the fire started to burn, the water to be wet, and the air to blow? No one can say this." So this is more or less a reference to something very primordial, old, that was before all the religions that we know contemporarily, before all these religions were established. Let's go to the next slide. Babaji also asserted that all religions are incorporated in the principle of truth, simplicity, and love. Yeah? And when I talk to people of all kind of religious backgrounds, they almost always confirm that these values are in fact present in their respective religions. Babaji said, "The creation is vast and there are many doctrines. Adhere to one principle, that of truth, simplicity, and love. Live in truth, simplicity, and love, and practice karma yoga." And he said that this is the man's supreme duty, and the highest yoga is to simply adhere to these values. Babaji also talked a lot about human and religious unity. He explained, in any town there is always a central place. All the roads in the town or from out of town lead to that central place. Similarly, all religions lead to one point, and that is God himself. and therefore following any religion, you will ultimately reach God. Yeah? He said further, we are all equal despite the country we come from, and national differences should be ignored. We are all unity. We must shed all jealousy and envy because they are harmful. You can naturally check the statements against the practices of your own religions. And I believe that the reality is that, we are very far from this ideal described by Babaji. There is, in fact, a lot of suspicion, jealousy, and envy, and this is not helping anyone. Babaji also praised humanism. He said one can follow any religion, one can follow any practice or path, but one must be humane. He explained, the world now is in a state of turmoil. It is suffering from 3 kinds of pain: physical, mental, and spiritual. And there is only one way of being cured from these. We have to root out inhumanity and replace it with humanity. And he believed that this is the only way towards success in life, just to adhere to this humanistic values. As I indicated earlier, Babaji was very strong on physical activity, which he named referred to as karma yoga. So in principle, this is simply a yoga of work, especially yoga of physical work. He said, if you engage in doing good deeds and go on doing good acts, you will have good sleep, good appetite, and bad thoughts will not cross your mind. Otherwise, you will always be criticizing others. In inaction, your minds will always be engaged in thinking critically of others. I can confirm it from my own life, especially since we retired with my wife. She has not too much to do all day long. She has become very critical of me from the morning until evening. There is one flow of criticism of one sort of another. So I believe this confirms to me that Baba's words are in fact true. He said, in every age, people reach salvation through different types of actions and sadhanas, which means spiritual practices. But in this age, one can reach liberation only through hard work. He said, we need not consider religion or caste, but only look to hard work. Again, we skipped one, I think. Yes. No. Yes. Oh, here we are. As I indicated earlier, Babaji was kind of warning us of upcoming great destruction involving earthquakes, flood, accidents, collisions, and wars. And he said, destruction is the most necessary aspect of creation, and warned that the revolution will come quickly and spread everywhere. So, which is not exactly clear what he was referring to, because he, for instance, would make statements about upcoming nuclear disaster. I'm not quite sure if he meant, Chernobyl or Fukushima disasters, or if he meant nuclear war, which, if we follow, the situation in Ukraine, is a distinctive possibility. perhaps he was also referring to things such as global warming and indicating that some sort of, ecological catastrophe will come, or maybe even things such as COVID-19 that, in fact, paralyzed the world quite effectively for almost 2 years. What he said is that only courageous people can survive these upcoming times. And he said we need to go beyond the fear of death and the hope of life. As a means of protection during this Mahakranti, this upcoming great destruction, he was encouraging his followers to repeat the name of God. And he was particularly fond of the Maha Mantra Om Namah Shivaya, and claimed that this was just this mantra alone is stronger than all the bombs, and claimed that when we chant Om Namah Shivaya, we may even defy death. So he said the world is transitory, the name of God is the true reality. That's why we all should be repeating God's name. And although he was fond very much of Om Namah Shivaya mantra, he also said that, you can repeat any name your religion teaches, whatever you feel comfortable using. Babaji was also very strong on purity, like, he used to take 2 baths a day in this cold Gautama Ganga, and he taught that spending time with natural fire and physical activity have, healing, purifying impact. He said, God resides only in cleanliness. If there is impurity in you, how can God reside in your heart? And he was encouraging us to look in our countries for people who are, poverty-stricken and helpless, and help them to raise the standards of their living and practice cleanliness and high morals and stuff like this. So purity is an important concept. Babaji also urged us to be inspired, to follow some sort of some ideals in our life. He said everything in this world is fura, transient. It has no reality. True reality is to proceed on the path of truth, to keep the company of saintly people, and to render services to men. And he was encouraging his followers, go to the wise, try to, learn, gain new knowledge, follow some goals, establish goals, and stay fully concentrated on these goals until we reach them. Babaji also encouraged us to be very alert. He said, only those who are very alert and careful can be successful in their lives. So yeah, he was saying, yes, be alert and try to teach others how to be alert. Especially, yes, in the context of this possible upcoming calamities. We should be really paying attention to what is happening in the world, and it will be very interesting, for instance, to get to know what will happen tomorrow in the United States, and which direction this country will take, because it can impact on us very soon. So need to be alert. Babaji also asked us to be dutiful and determined in what we do. He said, fulfilling your duty is the highest accomplishment. It is higher than any other sadhana, which means any other spiritual practices, penance, and the rest, your own duty comes first. Yeah. And he was saying everyone must use his own common sense, and he should do his duty without waiting to be told what to do. Control your mind, he would say us, yeah, and say to us, have firm determination, be firm like a rock, deep and serious like the sea. Babaji also coined a new slogan, Jai Vishwa, which can be translated as victory or glory or honor to the universe. Yeah. And he urged us to think of Earth as mother. He said, don't be divided by thinking of yourselves as belonging to different countries. We belong to one Earth. Yeah? Naturally, this is very much against what is happening, for instance, in many countries where they say, no, so let's make America great again. Yeah? And this is very much against this kind of trends. We should think of ourselves as belonging to one Earth, yeah? And have the welfare of the whole universe in mind, not just of one country. And finally, this is how Babaji explained this new unity beyond division phrase. He said, I am everywhere in your every breath. I have come to help you realize unity beyond division. I will show you a freedom you have not imagined. You must seek that unity from whence there is awareness that we are all one. Seek harmony in all you do. I am harmony. If you are in peace, I am in peace. If you are troubled, I am troubled. If you are happy, I am happy. Be happy, Babaji used to say often to his followers. And this also the part of his teachings that I like very much, because this encourages aliveness and optimism and good humor and fun and playfulness and this kind of stuff. So to summarize, these are the most unifying elements of Haidakhan Babaji and Babaji's message. More or less, he says, all religions come from the same primordial religion. All religions lead to the same goal, which is God. All religions are incorporated in the principle of truth, simplicity, and love. All religions must, first of all, practice humanism. Hard work is more important than religion. I'm not quite sure, you may not like it, but one of his prominent statements was, he said that hard-working agnostics are more acceptable than lazy spiritual hypocrites. Yeah? So this was, this is how he felt about these things. Repeating God's name is supposed to be the best protection at the times of trouble, and you may consider adopting this practice. God is omnipresent. This is not a new concept. This is more or less what all the religions teach. Yeah, as life or consciousness, God is active in every human being, and we are all one. National or religious differences should be ignored. We all belong to one Earth. If you wanted to get more information about Babaji or about his teaching, you may consider this book of mine, Truth, Simplicity, and Love, Essential Haidakhan Babaji. This more or less contains the essence of his teachings. This is not a big book. This is relatively thin and can be purchased online or through my webpage, or perhaps if you contacted Neta and ACI, I could provide you with more copies to buy it. And no, well, there should be more.
Oh, there's another one?
There's more.
Stop the share here for somebody.
Yeah. Oh, we have a question, I think. Shall I finish? Because there are 2 slides left, I think.
Okay.
It's nearly 1 o'clock, so I need to go.
Okay,
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you for the presentation.
no problem. My pleasure was mine. And this is a new book of mine that just came from the print shop called Unity Beyond Division, Haidakhan Babaji for Christians. This was meant mostly for the followers of Christ, but I believe it should be an interesting read for people of all religious backgrounds. And there are also some resources available on the internet. If we can go to the next slide. There are articles on Haidakhan Babaji on Wikipedia, on Wikiquote. You may want to visit my One God site, which collects information from all religious and faith traditions, pointing out to the underlying unity of all religions. But the site also contains many quotations from Babaji. There are videos and slideshows on YouTube. You can actually see him moving and interacting with people. And if you wanted to read some other books, I believe these 3 would be I would recommend by Gaura Devi and Radha Shyam, who spent many years in Babaji's presence. I was not privileged to actually meet Babaji in person, but those people did, and they spent many years with him and had the chance to watch how he acts and describe this all firsthand. So these are fascinating readings. So yes, if there are perhaps any questions, I would be willing to respond to those, or you may send a question to me by email, or whatever would work for you.
I see Zachary, Shake raised his hand.
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm on?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I just wonder, how do you compare Babaji message to Jesus Christ message? You said that you have converted, or you left Catholicism behind to promote this message of Babaji. What's the difference between the 2 messages?
I spent a considerable amount of time to actually analyze those things and to compare Jesus' teachings and Babaji teachings, and this is a result of this analysis. And
Okay. So reading the book would answer that.
No, I can say that to a great extent, I believe this message seems to be harmonious or compatible between. It seems Babaji and Jesus are teaching basically the same thing. Yeah? While some maybe cultural differences and there was difference of 2000 years, which is there was a bit slightly different times and different mentality at the Jesus times. However, I personally believe in Jesus' story. I believe this story is true for me. I simply don't find it is not comfortable for me personally to try to pursue this story through the traditional Christian churches. I believe that the practices are often not compatible with what Jesus actually taught. But to answer your question, I believe this message of Babaji and Jesus are very, very similar.
Yes, I got that, and actually, your answer was that you don't believe that the churches right now are portraying Jesus' message the way it was. Did I understand that right?
More or less, yes. I do not practice in any Christian church myself, although, as I said, I believe in the story of Jesus. Simply, the practices seem to be at odds with what I believe the meaning of Jesus' life was, and what he was really teaching, and stuff like this. But I guess this is not that unique just to Christianity, because practically in every religion you will find beautiful ideas. Yeah? The ideal, there's no problem with the ideal itself, but the practice, how people put these ideals into the real life, this is often not, it is questionable. Yeah?
Thank you. You answered my question, for sure.
Anyone else? Well, Peter, thank you for coming. I see we've reached 1 o'clock, and I know we started a few minutes late. This recording will be up on our website as soon as possible, and I'll let you know. And also we'll put the links to buying Peter's books online, and we'll talk about having a few copies here in the office. Nobody really comes to the office much anymore, but as today proves. But thank you again. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
And thank you for you who showed up for this presentation. I know it's never wasted time for me when I speak about Babaji, because it's so inspiring by itself, but and enjoyable. But I believe this was a worth effort, and I very much thank you for the ACIA for inviting me and to do this.
Well, thank you very much. To bring someone to our attention who was so spiritual and brought such meaningful ideas and practices to so many people. I'd never heard of him, and I really appreciate you sharing this. Thank you.
Thank you. So are we done?
Thank you, everybody, for showing up, and we'll see you at the next lunch and learn.
Yep.
Probably about a month.
You take care.
Bye-bye.
Oh, yes, that'll be, oh, yes, thank you. Our next Shake will be our next
Yes.
speaker, and I think it'll be the second Monday of December. We have to firm that up, and we'll get the notice out right away. Thank you.
All right. I'll be in touch with you regarding some details, how we're
Good.
going to do this.
Good.
Okay.
Have a good day all.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Good luck.
Bye.